Welcome back. Now, still talking about each about Excel charts. We're talking next on Sparklines. Sparklines. Now, quickly, what are Sparklines? Well, Sparklines are just ways to insert mini charts into a cell in a way that summarizes data that's next to it, and basically it shows it in form of a trend line. Yeah, more like a trend. Um, if you've probably seen a pictorial diagram visualization of something relating to stock exchange, cryptocurrencies, or forex, you understand that that trend graph that we usually see. So that's basically what this is for. So peradventure you want to see the trend. Now I have this data here. It says data of job applicants for various roles in a year. So we want to see the trend, how people have been applying, since the month began down till December, definitely of the same year. Now we have for data analyst, senior data analyst, data scientist, and the others. And we have the total value. So for January, we had a total of 2,171 job applicants for all this. I think we have 6 roles here. And you should also remember that these total figures were not coded. You can looking here, you would see that it was derived using a formula to avoid any form of errors. Now we have this column here, that's column O. We have this column here, and in this column we are literally just going to add our sparklines. So how do you add sparklines to your data set? Now basically, just like most other things, you highlight the data you want to use, right? And remember that you probably might have so much data, so you don't want to start going down. If you had like 1,000 lines, remember the shortcut Shift plus Control plus arrow down, and then I could do that arrow right as well, and it highlights everything easily. Now, having highlighted this, I could go to the Insert section from my ribbon, and then I will see this Sparklines column. Now we have 3 different types of sparkline charts. We are going to start from my least preferred, which is win or loss. So I believe that the win or loss has to do with, if the value is positive, for instance, if you have an accounting data that says you're trying to see when you made profit on which products or when you made loss, I believe that this would go well for it. So, but for this data set, this might not be the best option, but let's just view it and see. So once you click on this, it pops out this create sparklines. It already shows the data range, and this is the same data range that we selected from C3 to N9. If you look here, this is N9. So we need not touch that. Now, it's saying we should choose where you want the sparklines to be placed. I have this location range. Now, this is where I want the sparkline, for each of these rows. So I want from O3 down to O9. Now, I could actually write it manually, but better still, I click on this icon and it closes, and then I could just select the range. So I've covered O3 to O9, which we see here, but you notice the $sign, that means the cells has been logged to avoid changes. So once I click on this back, and then I click OK, and instantly we have it there. So this is basically what it is. Obviously all the values are positive. Let me have this as minus 900. Now can you see, if this was a negative value, you can see that this red shows that there was a loss. So returning back to what it was, everything is win, that's profit, but this is not a profit and loss table, so we can't use this type of sparkline chart. So once I already have it highlighted, initially we had to go through insert and then we had to come here, but once you already have it here and if it's highlighted, if I click away, you are not going to see anything here. But once I click in this sparklines, column, Excel brings the sparkline option here, making it easier. So I don't have to necessarily go through insert. So I could just click sparkline here and I could change based on colors, just this is just about colors, and there are other things we could do, but for now, let's focus on the important one. So we don't want this win and loss. Let's try the column. This column type of sparkline gives us a data that looks like a bar, more like a bar chart. Yeah, I believe it's bar chart it's called. Now let me zoom in so you can see better. So this is basically it. You can see this is the list, and that was for December for this job role. That's 555. If you look at the next job role, we had, I think this is December, November, October, September, October, at the list 134, 133. So it gives more like a bar chart where you can see, okay, we had an high year and we had an extremely low year. But then, preferably for me, for the purpose of this, I think I personally am not, you could always do which fits for the data you're using. Like I said, if you're doing the profit and loss table, more like a balance sheet data or a sales data, you probably might want to use win and loss. But for this case now, I would prefer to use a line. So now looking at the line, this is what we have. It's just like a trend. So, and you should understand that this trend is automatically generated. So once the value changes, for instance, now, let us assume that I change the value of January to 200. This one, let me change to 300. Now, let me scroll. Okay, let me zoom. All right, I need to see everything clearly. So, I undo this. All right, I want you to see the changes. So once the data here changes, the value, the trend of the sparkline changes. So this 989, let's change it to 200 and look at what happens to the trend here. You can see that there was, a downward trend. That's the technical word. And then this one as well, everything looks so straight because they are all similar. Now let's assume that we had a 300 here. You can see that there was a break. Here we had a 566. You can see that it's not as smooth. And then after the 566, we probably add let me say we have 200 here as well. You can see. So once the data changes, the trend line automatically is dynamically updated. You don't have to go over the process again. Now zooming back in, we have various things we can do to just make this look better and more. Now once it's highlighted, if you click on the spark line, you can either change the color of the lines. So currently it's on black. You can change it to light blue. Maybe that's finer. And aside that, you have these options here. You probably want to mark the highest point from your chart. That where was the highest data. Now, if I click on that, you can see all of them has, so this was the highest point. Probably this is like, now you can add data to see each month. This is basically each month. So January, February, March, April. And then if I remove it, we don't have it except the highest, the high point. You can also add the low point. Now, the way it is, I've added the high point and the low point. Everything is looking the same. You might not be able to differentiate it. I could also add the first starting point. It's also not obvious, but then we can actually edit them. So if I click on here, I could okay, let me see. Once we change, this is the sparkline color, but let's leave it on what it was before. I think it was, let's just give it this deep shade of blue. All right, now, so the marker color, all those markers that we picked, we can now begin to, so that they can be differentiated. Markers shows every month. We want every month to probably have a color of a visible kit. No, that's not very visible. Let's look for a color that will be a bit more visible. All right, this is every month. Now we can also add color for the high points. The high points are, where the data was highest. Let's add a purple. Let's see. We just need something that will be obvious. That is not obvious enough. We can use something different. Let's see orange. Yeah, so orange. Was that for highest point? I think. Oh, that was for first point. For first point, I added an orange-like color. So that is always showing the beginning, the starting point for each month. But for the high points, let's look for a color that would really, okay, it's a bit difficult to get a color that would blend properly. Let's see what green would look like. Okay, now green is a bit more obvious. So this green shows the highest point of each of the spark lines. So this was where the data was the highest. Now I want to also know by just view which month was the data lowest. Where did we have the lowest data? You can see a red mark. So the red shows the lowest data point, as you can see already, and the green shows the highest. But the other ones that looks like blue shows every month. So that is basically all. I mean, that is, you can just play around, edit them, format them as you wish. See you in the next video.